Konnichiwa. Welcome to Chapter 7. This lesson is on the Teiru form. The lesson is based on pages 170 through 172 of Genki. In this lesson, we'll learn yet another grammatical structure that involves the te form. The verbal te form plus the helping verb iru can mean one of two things. One, it might mean that we are describing an action that is in progress. Or, two, it might mean that we are describing a past event that is connected with the present. Which of these two meanings a given teiru verb signifies is determined primarily by the semantic characteristics of the verb in the te form. If we paint with a broad brush, we have covered three different kinds of verbs thus far. One, verbs that describe continuous states. Two, verbs that describe activities that last for some amount of time. And three, verbs that describe changes that are more or less instantaneous. Verbs such as aru and iru are from the first group. These two verbs, for example, describe the continuous state of inanimate or animate existence. Verbs from this group are never, ever, ever used together with the helping verb iru. This means that you will never encounter a Japanese expression that includes iteiru or atteiru. The majority of the verbs we have covered belong to group 2. Verbs such as taberu, nomu, matsu, and benkyou suru describe activities that last for some time. When the te form of a verb from group 2 is followed by the helping verb iru, we have a sentence that describes an action in progress. Therefore, Meiri-san wa ima benkyou shite imasu with suru in the te form followed by iru would mean Mary is studying right now. This is the case because the verb to study, benkyou suru, is one that describes an activity that lasts for some set amount of time. That is to say, benkyou suru is what we called a group 2 verb. When the te form of these verbs is followed by teiru, we have sentences that describe an action in progress. Alternatively, teiru sentences with group 2 verbs can also describe what a person does by occupation or by habit. In English, for example, we might say that someone is studying for the SAT. Now, we might mean that the person is studying at this very moment, but we might mean studying in the sense that this is something that the person is doing regularly, habitually, or, in a sentence with a different context, occupationally. Similarly, Mary-san wa mainichi nihongo o benkyou shite imasu does not mean that Mary studies continuously for 24 hours a day, every day, but rather it means that Mary studies Japanese habitually. The meaning of group 2 verbs in the teiru form is not to be confused with the meaning of group 3 verbs in the teiru form. Remember that group 3 verbs are verbs that describe a change from one state to another. Take a verb like to get married, kekkon suru. Now there is clearly a change in state here. With marriage, one goes from the state of being single to the state of being married. In verbs such as this, the teiru form indicates a past occurrence, or a change, which retains its significance until the present moment. In short, group 3 verbs in the teiru form represent the result of a change. Take this sentence. Yamashita sensei wa kekkon shite imasu. This sentence does not mean that Yamashita sensei is in the process of getting married right now. Rather, it means that Yamashita sensei was once single, but got married in the past, and that change in state from being single to being married still stands. In other words, this means simply that Professor Yamashita is married. You can see pages 171 through 172 for a list of verbs that fall into group 3 for the purpose of the teiru form. You should also note that Japanese considers iku and kuru, to go and to come, as group 3 verbs. Therefore, Nihon ni itteimasu would not mean that someone is going to Japan, but rather that someone has gone to Japan and remains there. Although I'm sure you've already beat me to the punch, we should make a quick note about conjugating the teiru form. Iru, of course, is a iru verb. As such, the teiru form of verbs conjugates as a iru verb. Or rather, iru conjugates as it always does. Take the teiru form of taberu, tabeteiru, for example. In the present affirmative, we have the te form of taberu, tabete, plus the long form of iru, imasu, which gives us tabeteimasu. Remember, because taberu is a group 2 verb, this means that someone is eating right now. For the present negative, we have tabete plus imasen, or tabete imasen, or someone is not eating. For the past affirmative, we have tabete plus the long form of the past affirmative of iru, imashita, which gives us tabete imashita. Someone was eating. And finally, someone was not eating would be tabete imasen deshita, or the te form of taberu with the past negative of iru, imasen deshita. This conjugation procedure will work with any verb. You simply add iru to the te form of the verb and conjugate iru accordingly. In this lesson, we discussed the teiru form. We talked about the 2 different meanings of the teiru form, a method for determining which meaning is appropriate depending on the verb group, and conjugating the teiru form. では、さようなら。